Profile Repair 101. The point of this project is to take two pieces of small stock that we have commonly found in the blue rack in our metal storage room and weld them together so that you have one long piece that we can use in our various projects. So to start with this, we need to first go into the room and select two pieces. We do not, I repeat, we do not take a piece of material and cut it in half and weld it together. That defeats the purpose of the project. And what we're doing here is we're taking two pieces, cutting them off square on the bandsaw, and then chamfering the edge. And we've just got done talking about chamfering the edge and what degree that is. Is that coming through okay?
Yeah, hang on.
Just stop moving it.
There.
So we're chamfering the edge here on both pieces. And then we want to make sure that we have another piece of stock, of angle iron, that we can set the material in so that all the planes are coplanar. So this plane that I'm touching on this metal is on the same plane as this. And we have to make sure that we don't have any other weld spatter on here, or we have any bumps on there, or it itself is not bent or warped. And so I've chamfered both pieces, and I'm going to put them together. And then I have these vice grips that I'm going to clamp these down to the angle iron, because what's going to happen is when I start tack welding this, the heat from the tack welding is going to cause this to bow a little bit. That's just something that we can't avoid unless we clamp it down. And so I'm going to use two clamps here. Same thing over here. Might need to come over on that other side and just realize that there's not much of a gap there. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take my welder, and is that wire coming in on the video? I'm going to tack weld here, I'm going to tack weld here, and I'm going to tack weld down here at the base. I'm going to tack weld on 3 points. If I just tack weld on the top, then the heat from there is going to cause this to bow down here. And if I tack weld there and there, then it's going to bow on this back side, this back plane over here, the part that's resting up against this side of the angle iron. So I have to do all three to hold it, and then I'm going to take it out of the clamps, spin it, tack weld, double check that it's okay, and then weld it in. So, got my welding helmet here, I've got my gas on, flow is good, I've got my ground clamp on here. And another thing to mention is when you're welding on metal that is that has paint on it like this does, I may not get the best ground, so I may have to move this, and I don't know, because as you can see, I haven't welded on this, but I'm just going to clamp on our form here, or our angle iron, that's kind of our jig, and the actual material itself, and we'll see what we get. My settings are all correct, so I'm going to start with a tack weld right here and see if we get connection. All right, I'm gonna finish with a tack weld and do 2 more. So now, this may not be done perfect, and so we have to double check this. This is the point in which we can take these off, and we can still grind those off, or we might be able to just bend it. So we have to check. This is just a checkpoint for you. So what we're going to do here is we're going to sight down this, and I'm looking at it and I see a slight bend in there. Let's check on the other side. This looks pretty good on this side. So I'm going to put that in the vise and just see if I can't straighten that out a little bit. I've got a vise opened up right here. And there's a pretty good chance that this is going to break. And this is going to happen to quite a few of you, but so I got that cranked in there. And I'm just going to give that a little bump. Those tack welds allow me to do this. If they don't, if I were to weld that solid right there, I wouldn't be able to move this.
It looks a lot better.
It looks a lot better from both sides. Maybe up a little bit more. If I tweak this too much, it'll break. Let's flip it. You want to get one more view of it down the pipe there. This is about as good as it's going to get, I believe. We've got a kind of a bulge here in the metal, and that looks like maybe some water got in there and it froze and it expanded, kind of ballooned that out.
Science.
I believe physics. Water is the only compound on Earth that gets bigger once it becomes a solid. Everything else gets smaller. That's how there's
nature
life on this planet. All right, so I'm going to put this back in here, and I'm going to do a tack weld on there.
It's just the adjusting vice grips too.
Yep. We've used these before, but as a refresher, we can change the jaw size based on that screw on there. All right, I'm ready for another tack weld here. Put your foot there. It's a good idea to run your finger across these two to make sure those planes are parallel. And now I'm going to weld this straight across here because I'm pretty confident this is going to work because I've got those other tack welds there, and by tack welding here and welding back my way, it's not going to warp. One of the things I want to point out here is when we're working on our projects, and this is one of our projects, we're spending a lot more time prepping all of this for the actual welding than the actual welding. And that's pretty common in the welding industry. Even people that are doing this for artwork or hobbyists, they're going to spend a lot more time prepping all this, grinding things, getting rid of paint and chemicals and stuff so that they can weld it. And the welding is, of course, going to take just a few minutes. Alright, so I finished welding this. Now I'm going to let this cool off a little bit. It's a good time now to put away our clamps back on the back in the cabinet where they should be. And it's of course always good to mention that we want to bring these in and then back that off a little, tighten that up, and clamp them so that they stay shut. Then we can hang them back on the shelf. For the video purpose, we'll just leave that out. Now what I'm looking at doing over here, Joe, maybe you want to come over from that angle, or you can of course choose what's best, but I'm going to grab you an earmuff too. Or do you want to grab one?
I'll be alright. I'll just pinch my ears sharp.
Well, let's get you some earmuffs.
I can wiggle them, look.
Alright. So we got some earmuffs here. Whenever we're grinding, we should wear earmuffs. I have glasses. We have two types of belts, or blade, sanding discs here, grinder discs. We've got an aluminum oxide that is very aggressive. This is like a 10 grit or something. I don't know what grit it is. Just a very heavy, coarse grit for grinding steel and stainless steel. And this is a flap wheel. And I like using this to finish my profile repair because it's a finer grit. It's I think this is 45 or 50 grit. And it gives it a little bit smoother finish, and I like that look. So I'm just gonna do a little bit of grinding on one side here, and then we will do this on all 4 sides. But I'll grind here and then I'll finish up with that.
Starting with the aggressive cut.
Starting with the aggressive. What I'm trying to do here is make this all flat. I don't want to have this part dished. I don't want that dished right there where it would be a low spot. I've chamfered those edges so that the weld can penetrate into the base metals, and now I'm just going to polish that a little bit with this flap disc. So if I'm looking right in here, this is very flat. If I were to take a straight edge and go right here on the side, I don't know if you can go over there from that vise and get a cross section of that.
Better this way.
Better that way? That looks virtually perfect. We don't want a big dip in there, a low spot.
Right.
So that's the profile repair. I would finish up by doing the other 3 sides, and then you'll come see your instructor. You'll take your paint marker, write your name on here, and then you turn it in to your teacher, to your instructor, and we'll be good to go.